Hi everyone, we're here at Ply Lane today celebrating International Women's Day, and we've got our very own Jane Lonsdale from the Don's Trust Board. So hi Jane, how are you getting on?
All right, thank you. Thanks for having me down.
No worries. So just to kick things off, what does AFC Wimbledon mean to you?
So AFC Wimbledon is my club. It's my football team, but it's more than that. It's about a community. It's about where my friends are and my family come. We share a matchday experience.
And that's why you're so heavily involved in the club. And when did the love affair begin?
So I've always really liked live sport. I've always liked live football, but as a woman, a single woman in the 80s, it wasn't really a welcoming environment, shall we say. And so I found a willing male volunteer to take me to a game. Happened to be Arsenal, so I was stood on the North Bank at Highbury in the mid-80s, which was a bit of an experience. And then I met my now boyfriend at the time, and getting to see him on a Saturday meant coming to football. And so I trekked off to see Wimbledon, and that's where the love affair really began, because I completely got hooked. I joined in the mid-90s, and it was the protest years, and I like a bit of a protest, so I got involved with the protest.
Amazing. So why did you choose to become a Don's Trust board member?
And so I became a trust member first, and quite liked the fact that we owned our own club. And then there were some decisions that were made that I didn't quite agree with, and went to a Don's Trust meeting, asked a question, got an answer that I didn't really like the answer to, and thought if I wanted to affect change, then I needed to be involved. And so stood for the board in 2013 and was elected to the board in 2013.
Amazing. So in what ways International Women's Day is relevant to our club, to AFC Wimbledon, in your opinion?
So football, if you talk about football, you generally think about men's football. Women's football is nowhere near as highly acclaimed as it should be, and so it's about a level playing field. The irony of a level playing field, but really matters in football. And so I got involved with the board really to kind of affect change, and to have a voice as a woman on the board. We've all been really lucky as AFC Wimbledon that we've always had a woman on the board of the Don's Trust, and so we've had as many as 4 women at one point. Last year we had 4 women on the board, which is unheard of in a football club.
Yeah.
And we're lucky that we've got Hannah and myself there at the moment, so we have that kind of a bit more of an even balance on the board of women and men. But it's not necessarily about the mix of women and men on the board. It's just about having a different voice on the board and about covering all bases.
Yeah, definitely. And what does International Women's Day mean to you personally?
So it's not something that I've ever really been thought about really. It's about having an opportunity to have a conversation like this, and to have it gives you an opportunity to talk about things that perhaps you wouldn't necessarily talk about every other day of the week.
Yeah, and what does it stand for? What is it telling the world, and what is it making us aware of in general? Maybe women or men, or in our industry in general as well, in football. What do we need to keep in mind by celebrating?
So I think it's a really good launch pad to promote some either great work that goes on by women within the club. There'll be some other bits and pieces coming out as part of International Women's Day that you can use it as a way to promote other things. It's really important to me as a woman to be involved in a hobby that I love, that I really enjoy, but that I can bring something to. And giving people that opportunity to do that is really important. The women's game is the biggest growing industry, or it was before COVID. So harnessing that support and using those things to help us as a club develop and grow is really important.
Yeah. And what does the International Women's Day mean to you in your work life? In your other life, in your real life,
in my normal life. So I'm really lucky. I work for the civil service, and we are, the most diverse organisation, partly in number and how we recruit and what we do. And we've got the department that I work in. We have a board of 11 and 6 of those are women. So our board is actually more in number of women than it is men, which is, you know, unusual in itself. But it's if you compare my work with the football club, there, you know, there's vast differences in where on that journey we are in parity and equality.
Yeah, definitely. And what do you think have the greatest strides and achievements made by women over the past century? What are they, in your opinion?
So I think a lot of work that women do probably goes unnoticed quite a lot, and that there's a lot of things that we do, and we just do it, and because of the way that the world has been, some of those things aren't noticed and aren't celebrated. So specifically, you know, I mean, you think about some of the stuff that Rosa Parks did around and the message that got across, and you know, that's a woman, and Emily Pankhurst running across steps and round Downs Racecourse. I mean, you know, there's specific individual stories, but I think a lot of what women bring is in their makeup and how they are and what they're about.
Yeah, definitely. And why are your heroes? What women do you admire most?
So, you know, the old-fashioned cliche of my mum. You know, my mum, my mum's 90 this year. She was born in 1931. She was widowed with an 8-month-old baby. And to think of that in that era, and then remarrying, and she married a younger man, which was unheard of in that era, and she dedicated her life to her family, really, and her she worked multiple jobs around, you know, being at home when I was home from school, and I just have huge amounts of respect for some of the things that she did in that era, in what would have been a really difficult time. You know, can you imagine marrying a younger man with a baby, and being a single mum in that era was almost unheard of. And another is Sharon White, who's the chair of the John Lewis Partnership. I used to work with her a few years ago, and she's just incredibly authentic. She used to leave things, little handwritten thank yous, just for things that people had done, and was just massively professional, really, really good at her job. You know, you wouldn't be in the John Lewis Partnership if you weren't. But she was just. You often hear about business women being really hard and hard cut and, you know, sort of really brash, and actually she wasn't. She was really lovely and genuine and a really nice person, and seeing that in the business world was really interesting.
Yeah, I think it's quite hard to strike that balance when you have to be a boss as well as just be your own person as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what do you think of the growth of women's football in recent years, and do you think how far it can go, and do you think it can be just as big as men's like it is in tennis, for example?
Absolutely, and why shouldn't it be? And actually, it's grown. As I say before the COVID, it's the biggest growing industry, right? Women's football, and it's something that we as a club should be absolutely tapping into. We've got a fantastic ladies team, and you know the parity isn't there right now. I think I saw the other day that I can't remember the name of the club, but one of the clubs, it might be Lewis, have got a women's team, and they are paid the same as their men's team, and you know that's kind of some aspirational stuff going on there that's already happening in the game. And actually, if we're thinking about AFC Wimbledon as a business, having the women's team, and you know you get a different audience, and you're marketing to a different audience completely. But why shouldn't we be doing that as well?
Yeah, definitely. And in your opinion, why is it important for more women to get involved in football in particular, either by attending, volunteering, or looking for employment? Because I know that's sometimes you're a little bit put off maybe, or football it's a man's world. And do you think that, or do you think you want to show that a little bit more to women out there, that AFC Wimbledon, you know, our doors are open, you can come work here, and it doesn't matter who you are.
It's so it's perceived from the outside to be a man's world, right?
Yeah.
And so the idea that you know, as a Don's Trust, we've got 2 women on the board at the moment. We've had a number of women on the board over the years. Football for me is for everyone, and that might be that you go, if you're more comfortable going to women's games than you are going to men's games, or but for me it's a sport for everybody, whether you play or watch. I mean, I'd never play. I've always been a supporter, a fan, a spectator, and it's about giving that opportunity. It's a different way, it's a different opportunity for women to be involved. It's really important for me personally that we've got women that young girls can look up to and aspire to be like, and because that's how you affect change.
Yeah, definitely. And what's the important piece of advice you'd give all our women out there to get involved in football?
So I don't think I'm the best person to be giving advice to other people about what to do. I mean, I can talk about what, you know, how I've thoroughly enjoyed my time on the board. I completely enjoy what I do. I wouldn't do it if I didn't enjoy it. You know, remembering that it's all voluntary, right? And so you've got to be doing something you enjoy. There's something about finding something that suits you, that you enjoy. I've always enjoyed football as a hobby, and so being able to be elected to the board, being on the board for a number of years, being able to bring some thought and some experience and some skills to that, whether that's a man or a woman is kind of not important to me. But from a why is it important that women come to football? You know, massively important. It's an opportunity for everybody. Where, as you know, I chair the Diversity and Inclusion Working Group, and for me that's really important, about being diverse and inclusive, and that includes women and men and children and disabled, and you know, all of the protected characteristics. Really important that everybody feels welcome here. For me, that's a massive thing.
Yeah, brilliant. That's it. Thank you for coming and joining us and answering some of our questions. But that's it.
You're very welcome. Thank you.